phrase, I don't know which way to turn. It could be anybody. He doesn't know which way to turn. She doesn't know which way to turn. This is a useful phrase when you are in a confusing or difficult situation and there are many options to choose from and you don't know which option to choose. It's very literal because you're doing this. What should I do? What should I do? That means I don't know which way to turn. It's a very common expression. It means you're confused. You don't know what the next action should be. You don't know what option to choose. You're confused. All right, here's the situation. John is having a very bad time. He lost his job. He has to move out of his apartment. He doesn't have a car anymore. It is a very difficult time for him. He doesn't know where to get help. He doesn't know which step should be the first step to make things better. Another way to say this is he doesn't know which way to turn. He's just standing there saying, what do I do? What should I do? This is crazy. All right. Where are we? He doesn't know which way to turn. He's very confused and in trouble. How would you make a what John should do question? What should he do? What should he do? What should he do if he what should he do if he doesn't know? What should he do if he doesn't know which way? What should he do if he doesn't know which way to turn? What should he do if he doesn't know which way to turn? Here's our recommendation. This time we'll use could. He could ask advice from a friend. He could ask advice from a friend. He could ask advice from a friend. This is our recommendation. How can we make a question at the end of the sentence that means, do you agree with my advice? He could ask advice from a friend. Since that's in the affirmative, our do you agree with me question should be in the negative. Couldn't he? Couldn't he? Couldn't he? Couldn't he? Couldn't he? You'll hear all of those. They sound different, but they're all very possible. He could ask advice from a friend. Couldn't he? Couldn't he? Couldn't he? What if you agree with me? How will you answer? That's correct. I agree with you. He could ask advice from a friend. Couldn't he? If you agree with me, repeat my original idea. That's true. You're right. He could. He could ask for a friend. He could ask advice. You're right. He could. Yes, he could. That's how you agree with one of those questions. He could ask advice from a friend. Couldn't he? He could. You're right. He could. Okay, here's the same sentence. He could ask advice from a friend. Couldn't he? How do you disagree with me? How do you tell me you're wrong? That's not true. That's a bad idea. He could agree with a friend. Couldn't he? My original idea is in the affirmative, so you have to answer in the negative. You have to answer in the opposite way. No, you're wrong. He couldn't. He couldn't ask advice. No, he couldn't ask advice from a friend. You're wrong about that. He could ask advice from a friend, couldn't he? No, you're wrong. He couldn't. That's not true. No, he couldn't. No, he couldn't. No, you're wrong. He couldn't. Okay, let's try another example using knowing which way to turn, which means being in a bad situation, not knowing what to do next. Lisa is working on a big project at work, and it is very complicated. There are many problems to solve. She doesn't know where to start, or which step to take first. Mary's having a difficult time with her project. She doesn't know which way to turn. So she has this complicated project, and you can imagine her with thinking, what do I do? What do I do? That's what it means when you say, I don't know which way to turn. She doesn't know which way to turn. Let's make a what Mary should do question. What should she do? What should she do? What should Mary do if she doesn't know? What should she do if she doesn't know which way? What should she do if she doesn't know which way to turn? Here is our advice. Let's use could again. She could consult. She could consult her boss. Consult her boss. Consulter boss. She could consult her boss. That's our opinion. That's our advice. She could consult her boss. She could consult her boss. How will you make a question at the end of that sentence that means, do you agree with my idea? If the original idea is, she could consult with her boss, that's affirmative. So if we want to make this, do you agree with my idea question, we have to use the negative. Couldn't she? She could consult with her boss, couldn't she? That means she could consult with her boss. Don't you think so? Don't you agree with me? How do you agree with me? If I ask you that question, she could consult with her boss, couldn't she? How would you say, that's true, I agree with you? In order to agree, you should repeat the original idea. She could. Yes, she could. You're right. She could. Yes, she could. She could consult with her boss, couldn't she? Yes, she could. So if you agree with me, you just repeat the original idea. Ignore the question at the end and repeat the original idea. What if you disagree with me? If I say she could consult with her boss, couldn't she? And you want to tell me, oh, that's not true, you're wrong, or that's a bad idea. How would you answer then? Because my original idea is she could, then your answer should be she couldn't. No, you're wrong about that. She couldn't. She couldn't consult with her boss. That's not true. She could consult with her boss, couldn't she? No, she couldn't. No, she couldn't. All right, let's move on to our next expression using turn. Let me just change the text here.